Valentine's Day, 20 to 4. As most of the city slept, emergencicles flooded in from one of Toronto's wealthiest neighborhoods. Inside a penthouse suite worth nearly $8 million, police found something that would send shockwaves across the continents. A woman's body carefully positioned as if she were sleeping. But this wasn't love. It was a message. Her name was Leonora Valdez, a 55-year-old Filipina mother and grandmother who believed she had finally found her forever love. The man beside her, a powerful Dubai sheikh, a man whose charm hid something far darker than anyone imagined. Why did Leonora travel halfway across the world for a man she barely knew? What secret did he keep hidden behind the gold, the private jets, the promises? And here's the most haunting part. Those who tried to savor her vanished before they could speak. Can you piece together the final 48 hours of Leonora Valdez's life? Because somewhere in that glittering world of wealth and deception lies the truth. Leonora Valdez wasn't supposed to be a headline. She was supposed to be a success story. For 28 years, she surveyed as a senior nurse at one of Manila's busiest hospitals. A woman known for her patience, her laughter, and her unwavering strength. She was 55, widowed for 8 long years. After her husband died of cancer, she raised 4 children on her own. No complaints, no breaks, just endless sacrifice. Her children called her the strongest woman they knew. According to her daughter, Patricia, Leonora gave everything to her family. Double shifts, missed holidays, every peso went toward tuition and rent. By the time her youngest finished college, she'd finally built the peaceful life she'd dreamed of. But when her children grew up and started their own families, the house felt too quiet. For the first time in decades, Leonora found herself surrounded by silence. She had conquered struggle, heartbreak, and loss. Yet, loneliness was something she never learned to heal from. And that's where her story takes a turn. One she never saw coming. In August 2023, everything changed. Patricia, Leonora's eldest daughter, had finally made it permanent residency in Toronto. After months of waiting, stacks of paperwork, and endless prayers, she sponsored her mother to join her. For Leonora, it felt like destiny. Her second chance at life. Imagine it. After 55 years in Manila's tropical warmth, Leonora felt her first brush of cold air. Toronto's crisp autumn breeze, the hum of city lights, the promise of a fresh beginning. She whispered to Patricia, "Maybe this is where I start living for me." But what few realized was that Leonora wasn't chasing retirement. She was chasing Gretaskovi. After decades defined biddity, she wanted to feel something again. Purpose, passion, freedom. Patricia had found her a stable job, good pay, kind colleagues, flexible hours. It was safe, and that was the problem. Leonora had lived her whole life being safe. She wanted more. She wanted to feel alive again. And that longing, the quiet ache for something new, was exactly what someone else saw in her. Someone watching, waiting for the perfect moment to step in. That desire for more would soon lead her straight into the arms of a predator. November 2023, the Four Seasons Hotel, where Toronto's elite gathered for a Filipino community charity gala. The theme celebrating overseas workers who'd built new lives abroad. It was meant to be a night of gratitude and glamour. Crystal chandeliers shimmered above her. Laughter echoed from across the ballroom. Leonora smiled politely, clutching her glass, quietly wishing she hadn't come. She didn't belong here, or so she thought. Then he appeared, Rasheed Al-Zarani, 62 years old. A man whose name carried weight into base business circles. Sharply dressed in a custom Tom Ford suit, his silver hair and steady gaze gave him an air of effortless authority. He didn't approach her like the others, no forced charm, no loud gestures. Rasheed was deliberate, controlled, every move calculated. He spoke not of beauty, but of grace. He stood about her work, her children, her new life in Canada. And for the first time in years, Leonora felt someone wasn't just hearing her words. They were listening. But what Leonora didn't realize was that Rasheed Al-Zarani hadn't come to that gala by chance. His presence wasn't random. He'd been there for one reason only, to find someone unique exactly like her. December 2023. The courtship was textbook and terrifyingly calculated. Week 2, dinner at Canoe, a $500 meal. He refused to let her pay. Told her she deserved to be treated like royalty. Week 3, a designer handbag. Because you deserve beautiful things, he said. Week 4, flew her first class to Montreal, a weekend of fine dining, expensive wine, and whispered promises. Leonora had never lived like this. By Christmas, she was radiant, giggling like a teenager. Her family saw it too, Patricia especially. Then came the quiet shift, missed family dinners, unanswered calls, little excuses, too tired, too busy, just one more evening with Rasheed. She was naive. A small voice inside whispered that things were moving too fast. But after years of working, sacrificing, and surviving, didn't she deserve a little magic? Didn't she deserve to feel wanted again? But there was one thing Leonora didn't. No, Rasheed Al-Zarani wasn't single. He was already married to 3 women, all living in Dubai. January 20 to Rasheed made an offer that changed everything. She hesitated. It was too much, too fast. They'd only known each other for 2 months. She didn't even know his real life in Dubai. What would her children think? But Rasheed had an answer for everything. He smiled and said, "Think of it as an investment property. You manage it for me. I'm only in Toronto twice a month. It shouldn't sit empty." Then came the hook. "Besides, a woman like you shouldn't be sharing a small apartment with your daughter's family. You've earned your own space." By January 28th, Leonora had moved into $3.2 million Australian dollars condo. Rasheed had paid 6 months' rent upfront, furnished every room, even handed her a credit card for household expenses. It looked like generosity. It was control. With thickies came rules, small ones at first, then stricter. Rule 1. Keep the relationship private. People might misunderstand our arrangement. Rule 2. Don't give the address to too many people. Security concerns, he said. Rule 3. Be available whenever he's in town. My time in Canada is limited. Rule 4. Dress appropriately for his business associates. First impressions matter. Patricia grew worried. She tried to visit one evening unannounced, but Leonora wouldn't open the door. Throth would. Her voice sounded strange, flat, uneasy. In that moment, Patricia realized something had shifted. Her mother's warmth was still there, but buried under fear. February 3, 2024. Leonora made a discovery that shattered her entire reality. Rasheed had left his tablet behind after one of his quick business trips. When the notification appeared, Leonora hesitated. Curiosity overpowered caution. She swiped the screen. What she found weren't business emails or flight bookings. They were messages, hundreds of them between Rasheed and multiple women, each thread carefully labeled, each one telling the same story. She started to notice a pattern. Each conversation followed the same rhythm, the same lines he once told her. "You're special, not like other women. You deserve to live beautifully. Keep our relationship private. People won't understand. Once certain arrangements are finalized, we'll marry." He'd sent the same gifts, the same photos, the same compliments every woman, thinking she was his only one. There were at least 9 women in his contacts, each one living in a different country. But it was what she found in archived messages that froze her blood. Because some of those women were no longer around to read his messages. 3 names kept appearing in Rasheed's archived folders. 3 women who hadn't believed the same promises Leonora had. Victim number 1, Fatima Hassan, a 48-year-old Lebanese immigrant living in Vancouver. She met Rasheed in 2019 at a cultural fundraiser. Within months, she'd moved into a luxury apartment he provided. When she tried to end things in March 2020, she was found dead in her bathtub. The coroner ruled it an accidental drowning. Rasheed, according to records, was in Dubai at the time. Victim number 2, Yuki Tanaka, a 52-year-old Japanese widow in Calgary. The same routine, lavish gifts, emotional control, isolation. She vanished in November 2021. Her body was never recovered. Police said there was no evidence connecting Rasheed to her disappearance. Victim number 3, Grace Opie, 50 years old, a Nigerian nurse in Montreal. She was with Rasheed for 7 months before she discovered his other relationships. In June 2022, she confronted him. 2 weeks later, she died in a car crash. Investigators cited brake failure, the report inconclusive, all mature women, all immigrants, isolated from their communities and all dead or missing after trying to leave him. According to investigators, Leonora spent the next 3 days in silent terror, reading, scrolling, crying. She finally knew who Rasheed really was. But what she found next turned fear into panic. Intimate photos she never took, hidden camera footage, bedroom recordings, in one thread. Rasheed had written, "The Filipino is becoming difficult. Remind her what happens if she talks. Show her the photos, her daughter's workplace, her grandchildren's school." In that moment, Leonora wasn't just trapped. She was being hunted. February 10th, 2024. Leonora did something both brave and dangerously foolish. She decided to fight back. For 2 straight days, she documented everything: messages, bank transfers, photos, recordings. She saved files to a USB drive, printed hard copies, and emailed encrypted backups to herself. Every click, every screenshot was an act of defiance. She finally called Patricia, her voice low, trembling. "I need to see you, don't tell anyone. Come alone." February 11th. They met at a Tim Hortons far from Yorkville, far from Rasheed's world. Patricia would later describe her mother as shaking, paranoid, constantly scanning the room. She'd lost weight. Her hands wouldn't stop trembling. Between sips of untouched coffee, Leonora told her everything. The manipulation, the hidden cameras, the other women, the deaths. She slid a small USB drive across the table and whispered, "If something happens to me, give this to the police." But then Leonora said the one thing Patricia begged her not to. She was going back to confront Rasheed. One last time, she hugged Patricia tightly, whispered one last promise, "I'll call you tomorrow. I promise, if you don't hear from me by noon." Take that drive to the police. Patricia never got that call. February 13th, 2024, 7:30 p.m. Leonora returned to the Yorkville condo for the last time. What happened next was later pieced together from fragments voice-activated recordings Leonora had hidden inside the apartment, her final text messages, forensic evidence, and the words of one woman who heard it all, Mrs. Elena Kowalski, 73 years old, lived in the unit directly below. She would tell police, "I heard everything and he did nothing. God forgive me." Rasheed was already there. He'd been waiting. He knew she'd found the tablet. He'd known for days. Leonora demanded he delete everything, every photo, every video. She begged him to let her go. To end it, he laughed, a sound Mrs. Kowalski later described as inhuman. That's when Leonora made her final stand. According to the recording, that's when his tone changed. And what happened next was no longer an argument. 9:47 p.m. Mrs. Kowalski heard the first crash: furniture toppling, glass shattering, and then Leonora's screams. Forensic investigators later confirmed the struggle was brutal. Leonora had offensive wounds on both arms and hands. She fought hard. She'd been struck repeatedly. Signs of strangulation, blunt force trauma to the head, and finally this forced ingestion of prescription sedatives. At 10:15 p.m., Mrs. Kowalski called building security. The concierge told her to mind her own business. That concierge would later be revealed to be on Rasheed's payroll. The final moments of Leonora's life were captured on a small voice recorder she didn't in her purse. In those recordings, her weakening voice calls out for her family. Rasheed's voice replies, calm and distant. "Stay quiet." Then a click, the sound of a syringe, then silence. The coroner later confirmed Leonora Valdez died sometime between 10:30 and 11 p.m. on February 13, th. 2024. Rasheed Al-Zarani had done this before. He was prepared. He was methodical. Between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m., Rasheed cleaned the apartment with industrial-grade chemicals. He staged Leonora's body topier as if she'd suffered a heart attack, carefully placing prescription bottles beside her bed. He wiped down every surface, deleted messages, and even paid the building's night concierge to erase key camera footage. By dawn, the condo looked untouched, but Rasheed made one critical mistake. He believed Leonora had come alone with her evidence. At 6:30 the next morning, Mrs. Kowalski finally broke her silence. She called the police, demanding police perform a welfare check. "I heard her screaming last night," she said. "Please just check on her." At 7:43 a.m., torn topless forced entry into the condo. Inside, they found a carefully arranged scene, clean, orderly, almost too perfect. But beneath that perfection was chaos, the scent of bleach still lingered. A faint footprint, size 11 Italian leather sole, led from the kitchen to the door. On the counter, traces of sedatives and blood proteins that cleaning agents couldn't fully erase. When detectives pieced thetamoline together, the truth was undeniable. The death wasn't natural. It was staged. By the time Rasheed Al-Zarani was named a person of interest, he was already 30,000 feet above the Atlantic on a private jet bound for Dubai. February 14th, 2024. Valentine's Day. At 11:20 a.m., Patricia Valdez received the call that shattered her world. Her mother, Leonora, was gone. She later said, "I knew. The moment the detective said my mother's name, I knew Rasheed had killed her, and he knew I had the proof." She immediately turned it over to investigators. What they uncovered changed everything. Inside that drive was the blueprint of Rasheed's crimes. Wire transfers, social companies, and government contacts, messages discussing disposal methods, photos and documents linking him to Fatima, Yuki, and Grace. And most heartbreakingly, a journal Leonora had written, her quiet documentation of every warning, sign, every fear, every moment she realized the man she loved was a monster. 2 days later, on February 16th, Patricia made her mother's story public. She stood before a wall of microphones, joined by lawyers, women's rights advocates, and the families of Rasheed's other victims. The moment went viral. Within 48 hours, Justice for Leonora trended across the world. News outlets from Manila to London carried her story. Strangers flooded social media with messages of grief, rage, and solidarity. Patricia had lost her mother, but in her fight for justice, Leonora's voice had become louder than ever. What followed was one of the largest international manhunts in recent Canadian history. The diplomatic fight was immediate. Rasheed Al-Zarani wasn't just wealthy, he was connected. As a Webassinus envoy, he held diplomatic status in Canada, claiming immunity from prosecution. But investigators refused to back down. The evidence was overwhelming. 9 new victims across 3 countries came forward. Financial audits uncovered over $12 million in hush payments to associates and officials. Forensic results matched Rasheed's DNA to the Yorkville crime scene. And in Dubai, local authorities found nearly identical operations targeting Eastern European women. Then came the turning point, April 2024. Under international pressure and Fachinga global scandal, the UAE revoked Rasheed Al-Zarani's diplomatic immunity. On May 3, 2024, Dubai police raided one of his private estates. Rasheed Al-Zarani was arrested without resistance. Within days, he was extradited to Canada to face charges of murder, coercion, and international trafficking. For the first time, justice was no longer a distant promise. It was finally in motion. The trial lasted 7 weeks. It captivated 2 nations, Canada and the Philippines. Every headline, every broadcast carried the same question: would Leonora finally get justice? The testimony was devastating. Mrs. Kowalski recounted every sound she heard that night. Patricia described her mother's final days, the fear, the bravery, the love. Forensic experts connected Rasheed to 4 murders, including Leonora's. 2 of his current victims testified, describing identical patterns of manipulation and control. Financial experts exposed his global network of fraud, blackmail, and payoffs. On October 18, 2024, after 14 hours of deliberation, the verdict was delivered. For counts of first-degree murder, 9 counts of human trafficking, multiple charges of fraud, blackmail, and obstruction of justice. Rasheed Al-Zarani was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole for 50 years. The man who believed himself untouchable would die behind bars. As court fell silent, Patricia's tears weren't of grief. They were of triumph. The world had finally heard her mother's voice. Leonora Valdez didn't live to see justice, but because of her, countless others would. Leonora Valdez's story is just about one woman's tragedy. It's a wake-up call, a warning about how predators manipulate trust, love, and loneliness to trap even the strongest among us. Here's what experts say touch for. 1. Love bombing. It starts with overwhelming affection. Lavish gifts, constant praise, and declarations of love within days. The goal to make you feel special, chosen, and dependent. 2. Isolation tactics. They'll suggest privacy, ask you to keep the relationship between us. Slowly, they'll separate you from friends and family. Before you notice, they've become your entire world. 3. Control disguised askari. It sounds protective. I just want you safe. But it becomes control. They track where you go, who you meet, even what you wear. Freedom vanishes behind phrases that sound loving. 4. Too good to be true. Instant luxury. Big promises. But ask a few real questions, say about business, background, or past relationships, and the answers shift. There's always a reason they can't introduce you to their real life. 5. Gaslighting your instincts. They make you doubt your own mind. You start apologizing for things you didn't do. They twist reality until you question your memory, your perception, even your sanity. Dr. Ramona Fitzgerald, a forensic psychologist who studies predatory behavior, explains it best. If you or someone you know is in a controlling or manipulative relations, speak up. Help is available. Leonora's story reminds us, love should never make you afraid. Trust your instincts. They might save your life. Today, Patricia Valdez runs the Leonora Valdez Foundation, an organization devoted to protecting immigrant women from exploitation and abuse. Leonora's legacy lives on not in tragedy, but in every woman who found the courage to speak because she once did. Leonora Valdez was a mother, a grandmother, a nurse, a friend, a woman who loved mangoes from home, Filipino delicious, and making her grandchildren-in-law. She wasn't just the victim of a crime. She was a hero, a woman one covered the truth, exposed a predator, and saved lives even at the cost of her own. Her name was Leonora Valdez, and she will never be forgotten. If history moved you, please share it. Awareness saves lives. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We tell the stories that mean justice and give voice to those who can no longer speak for themselves. Drop a comment below. What warning signs do you think people miss most often? Let's keep this conversation alive. Until next time, stay safe out